My op-ed today over at HartmannReport.com is titled, "Is the Department of Thought Crimes Closing In on You?" And yes, this is something that they have actually created. After 9/11, we created a department that basically looked for, terrorists who, it was called the Terrorism Screening Center. For like guys from Saudi Arabia who wanted to learn how to fly airplanes but didn't care about learning how to land them. That was one of the flags, actually. It's a real thing. So they set up the Terrorist Screening Center. Well, Trump just changed this to the Threat Screening Center. Now, what is the threat? Well, it's not guys from Saudi Arabia looking to learn how to fly airplanes. No, the threat now that they want to look at is Americans who subscribe to or espouse, quote, and this is from the National Presidential Memorandum number 7, National Security Memorandum, anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, extremism on migration, race, gender, or hostility toward those who hold traditional American views on the family, on religion, and on morality. You get this? That's you and me. I mean, by their definitions, the fact that I think that we should have gay marriage, that's an extremist view in their mind on morality. The fact that I think that Pete Hegseth shouldn't be running Christian, so-called Christian, not even Protestant, evangelical Christian services in the Pentagon and broadcasting them to all of our troops worldwide, the fact that I object to that is they would consider an extreme view on religion. The fact that I think that gay couples should be able to adopt children, they would consider that an extremist view on the family, on traditional American views on family. The fact that I acknowledge that black people and Hispanic people, and Native Americans, but largely black people, mostly black people, have been the victims of brutal discrimination throughout my lifetime. I'm not talking about slavery days. I'm talking about the last, X years, the last half a dozen generations. Makes me an extremist on race in their minds. And the fact that I'm critical of capitalist billionaires paying nothing in income taxes or pennies compared to what you and I pay makes me an extremist on capitalism. And maybe you too. Well, first, Ken Klippenstein discovered that he's a reporter. He discovered that there was this national security memorandum, presidential memorandum, which I just shared with you. I just read to you a paragraph from it. He then discovered that Trump, and this was 3 months later, this was still a couple months ago, and I reported it here on this program at the time, that Bondi and Patel, the DOJ and the FBI, were busily compiling lists of potential terrorists. And they were sharing this responsibility with ICE and with 200 FBI joint terrorism task forces. And Bondi had instructed them to go back 5 years in monitoring our social media to look for examples of the kinds of extremism that I just talked about. But that apparently was just the beginning, because this week, just a couple days ago, I believe it was Saturday or Sunday, Ken Klippenstein published a new report finding that Kash Patel has set up within the FBI a new working group, which includes 10 different federal investigative and police agencies, presumably including ICE, to, quote, proactively identify those of us, end of quote, those of us who may disagree with their opinions, with the Trump administration opinions about religion, gender, or capitalism. And that's the new Threat Screening Center that has replaced the old Terrorist Screening Center. They're no longer looking for foreigners. They're looking for Americans, American citizens. And as Ken Klippenstein points out in his article, quote, again, all of these developments have yielded virtually zero media attention. I think it's a massive story that absolutely nobody is paying attention to. I mean, when authoritarian regimes come into power, they follow what's called the dictator's playbook, a very specific set of steps. They purge government institutions of professionals and instead, fill top ranks of government with their toadies and yes men. They strip their political party of anybody who might stand up or even consider challenging them. They help friendly oligarchs buy up the nation's primary media, and they pay them off by giving them big, juicy government contracts. They pack the courts so that their buddies can crime without consequence. They build a separate parallel police force to, loyal first and foremost to dear leader rather than the law or the Constitution, to terrify the population and keep order. The Schutzstaffel, the brown shirts, the black shirts, the Tonton, the Central Nacional de Informaciones, or however you say it in Spanish, forgive my lousy. This was in Pinochet's government, or the Brigada Político-Social in Brazil, or the KGB FSB, or ICE. But the key to their identity, the main thing that people who want to turn a democracy into a dictatorship always do, 100% of the time, is they identify an enemy within. For Hitler, it was first the communists. Well, actually, it was first the gay people, then it was the communists, then it was the Jews. But there was always an enemy within. There has to be an enemy within. Otherwise, you don't have a rationale for authoritarianism. For Mussolini, it was the communists. For Pinochet, it was the so-called communists, the people who protested his form of government, the socialists, the people who were aligned with Allende. For Orban, it was the Syrian refugees, brown-skinned Muslim refugees. In fact, when J.D. Vance was in Budapest day before yesterday, he making a pitch for Orban's re-election, he said he kept out those illegal aliens, or words to that effect. That's not a verbatim quote, but damn close. So identifying the enemy within. Well, the enemy within, typically the first enemy within that gets identified are immigrants, very, very frequently. As Orban did, as Putin did with the Chechens. Oh, it's those other people. They don't look like us. They don't talk like us. They have a different language even in some cases. Well, we started with brown-skinned, mostly Mexicans, or people from south of our border, Hispanics. And then when you've solved that problem, when you've got that enemy within, under control, who do you turn to? You turn to the dissidents. You turn to you organize the thought police, and you go after, as I just shared with you, the extremists on race, religion, and capitalism. And the FBI is actually compiling these lists right now. And Kash Patel just told a reporter that they've increased the size of their list by 300% recently. Are you on that list? Am I on that list? What do we do about this?